If a man ignores you, act like this. Do not chase him. Do not punish him. Do not try to destroy his confidence. Destroy the one thing his ego may be feeding on. The certainty that your attention will remain available no matter how little he gives back. When a man suddenly stops replying, becomes cold, or acts as if you no longer matter, your first instinct may be to close the distance. You want to ask what happened. You want to explain yourself. You want to send one more message that finally makes him understand. But the more urgently you reach for him, the less clearly you can see what his silence is actually revealing. His silence may mean he is overwhelmed. It may mean he is avoiding an uncomfortable conversation. It may mean his interest has changed. In some situations, it may also be a way of testing whether he can still control your emotional attention without offering clarity. Those possibilities are not the same, but the strongest response begins in the same place. Do not reward uncertainty with panic. Think of your attention as a spotlight. Wherever you place it, energy grows. When he ignores you and your entire day becomes organized around his silence, the spotlight is still on him. You may not be speaking, but he is still occupying the center of your emotional world. Real detachment begins when you move that spotlight back to your own life. A woman named Maya learned this after dating Noah for 4 months. Noah was attentive in person. He remembered small things, she said. He talked about future plans. Then, after a particularly close weekend, his replies became short. By Tuesday, he stopped responding completely. Maya sent a light message. No reply. She waited several hours and sent another. By Wednesday night, she had written a long paragraph asking whether she had done something wrong. Noah finally replied the next morning, I've just been busy. You're overthinking. Maya felt embarrassed. She deleted the paragraph from the chat as if removing it could undo how exposed she felt. But what hurt most was not simply that Noah ignored her. It was that his silence had made her question her own emotional legitimacy. Here's the first thing you need to understand. When someone ignores you, your immediate reaction can tell them how much emotional access they still have. If one period of silence makes you send 5 messages, apologize without knowing what you did, or abandon your schedule, the silence has already changed the power dynamic. That does not mean you should become cold. It means you should pause long enough to separate fact from fear. The fact is that he has not replied. The fear may be that he has lost interest, found someone else, become angry, or decided you are not valuable. Those fears may eventually prove true or they may not. But reacting to them as if they are already facts can make you behave in ways that weaken your position and increase your anxiety. So the first move is simple. Stop adding energy to the silence. Do not send repeated messages. Do not call several times. Do not begin defending yourself against accusations he has not made. Give the situation enough space to reveal whether this is a temporary communication gap or part of a larger pattern. One calm message is enough. I noticed you've gone quiet. I hope everything is okay. Reach out when you're ready to communicate clearly. Then step back. That message is not begging. It is not hostile. It does not threaten him. It also does not leave you trapped in endless guessing. You have opened the door to mature communication. What he does next becomes information. If he explains, takes responsibility, and reconnects with consideration, the silence may have come from stress, confusion, or poor communication. If he returns casually without acknowledging what happened, disappears again, or blames you for noticing, then the issue is no longer one delayed reply. It is the pattern surrounding it. If you want more honest guidance about male psychology, emotional discipline, and relationship clarity, subscribe to Dark Realism Psychology. This is where we learn to read behavior without abandoning dignity. The next mistake is trying to force an explanation from a man who has chosen not to communicate. When someone ignores you, uncertainty creates psychological pressure. Your mind begins producing theories because a painful explanation can feel easier than no explanation at all. You replay conversations, you study the timing of his last message, you check whether he is active online, you search for the moment when his tone changed. This can make a long message feel necessary. You believe that if you explain how much the silence is hurting you, he will finally understand and respond with empathy. Sometimes he will, but if he already knows he is ignoring you, the problem may not be a lack of information. The problem may be a lack of willingness. Lena experienced this with Ryan. They had been in an undefined relationship for nearly a year. Ryan would become emotionally close, then disappear for days. Each time, Lena wrote thoughtful messages explaining that she did not need constant communication, only basic consistency. Ryan would apologize, tell her she was important, and become attentive for a week. Then the pattern returned. Lena thought she needed to communicate more clearly. In reality, she had already been clear. Ryan understood the request. He simply enjoyed the relationship more when consistency remained optional. This is an uncomfortable reversal. Over-explaining can sometimes reduce clarity rather than create it. The longer you speak, the easier it becomes for the main issue to disappear beneath details. Soon, he is responding to your tone, your timing, or one emotional sentence instead of addressing the repeated silence. Clarity does not require a courtroom argument. A mature statement can be brief. Inconsistent communication does not work for me. If you need space, tell me directly. If this continues, I will step away. Then follow your own words. A boundary without action becomes another request. If you repeatedly say you will not tolerate disappearing but remain fully available each time he returns, the relationship learns that your limit is emotional, not behavioral. This is where many women misunderstand the thumbnail promise. Destroy his ego does not mean insult him, humiliate him, or make him jealous. It means removing the reward his ego may receive from knowing he can disappear and still recover your full attention whenever he chooses. You do that by becoming consistent with yourself. Do not send a paragraph at midnight and then apologize for it in the morning. Do not block him to create panic and unblock him to check whether he noticed. Do not announce that you are done and then respond instantly when he sends a casual, hey. Every time your action contradicts your standard, uncertainty gains control again. The third mistake is retaliating with games. A man ignores you, so you post a picture designed to make him jealous. You become visible online but unavailable to him. You mention another man. You delay your response for exactly the same number of hours he ignored you. You tell yourself you are matching his energy, but when every action is calculated around his reaction, you are not free. You are still revolving around him. Jealousy can create urgency. It can make him watch your stories, contact you, or compete for attention. But urgency is not emotional readiness. A man may pursue because he fears losing access, not because he has developed the maturity to offer consistency. That is the second reversal. Being chased after you withdraw does not prove the relationship has improved. It may only prove that your absence activated his ego. A woman named Sophia saw this clearly after her situation with Adrian became unstable. Adrian ignored her for nearly a week, but continued viewing everything she posted. Hurt and angry, Sophia uploaded a photograph with a male friend and added a suggestive caption. Adrian contacted her within an hour. For 2 days, he was intense. He asked who the man was. He told Sophia he did not like seeing her with someone else. He said he had been thinking about her. Sophia felt powerful because she had finally made him react. But when she asked whether he wanted a committed relationship, Adrian became vague again. The jealousy strategy had produced attention without producing clarity. Sophia had not changed the relationship. She had only triggered a temporary competition for access. The stronger response would have been less dramatic and more difficult. Stop performing for him. Do not use social media as an indirect conversation. Do not try to prove you are desired. Let your life be real rather than strategically displayed. If he returns, ask a direct question. What are you looking for with me now? Then listen carefully, not only to his words, but to whether his behavior supports them. The fourth move is learning to identify what kind of silence you are dealing with. Not every man who goes quiet is playing a power game. Some men withdraw when overwhelmed because they have never learned how to communicate under stress. Some avoid conflict because they fear disappointing you. Some need temporary space. Some have lost interest but lack the courage to say it directly. And some use silence because they have learned that uncertainty makes the other person chase. You cannot diagnose the motive from one delayed reply. You have to study context. Was the relationship consistent before this? Did something difficult happen in his life? Has he communicated a need for space? Does he return with accountability or simply expect immediate access? Does the silence appear whenever you ask for clarity, commitment, or respect? Does he remain active everywhere else while deliberately avoiding your direct message? One incident may be confusing. A repeated pattern is more revealing. A healthy need for space still includes respect. He may say, I'm overwhelmed today. I need some time, but I'll call you tomorrow. He may not express it perfectly, but he does not leave you indefinitely suspended. Punishing silence is different. It often appears after you set a boundary, question inconsistent behavior, or refuse something he wants. The silence becomes a way to make you regret speaking. It teaches you that honesty may cost you connection. If this happens repeatedly, do not work harder to become easier to ignore. Do not shrink your needs so he remains comfortable. Say, I respect your need for space, but disappearing instead of communicating is not a dynamic I will continue. Then observe whether he can meet that standard. The fifth move is the most difficult because it happens inside you. Stop turning his silence into a measurement of your value. When someone you care about ignores you, rejection can feel personal. You begin reviewing your appearance, personality, emotional needs, and past mistakes. You imagine that a more attractive, relaxed, mysterious, or confident woman would have prevented this, but a man's inability or unwillingness to communicate is not an objective assessment of your worth. It tells you something about his current interests, capacity, priorities, emotional habits, or respect for the connection. It does not define your value as a woman. This does not mean you are never responsible for relationship problems. Perhaps you became reactive. Perhaps you crossed a boundary. Perhaps you said something hurtful. Mature self-reflection matters. But if you made a mistake, the healthy path is communication, not indefinite punishment. You can take responsibility without begging for access. I recognize that what I said was hurtful, and I'm sorry. I'm open to discussing it when you're ready. I will not keep contacting you while you remain silent. That statement owns your behavior without surrendering your dignity. Notice the difference between accountability and self-erasure. Accountability says, I can see my part. Self-erasure says, I will become whatever you want if you stop withdrawing. The first can repair a relationship. The second teaches you to fear abandonment more than you respect yourself. Now return to Maya and Noah. After Noah told her she was overthinking, Maya decided not to send another explanation. The next time he disappeared, she sent one calm message and continued with her week. She went to work, she met her sister for dinner, she stopped monitoring his activity. Noah returned 3 days later with the same casual tone. Hey, stranger, miss me? Previously, Maya would have felt instant relief. This time, she noticed something different. He had not acknowledged the silence. He had not asked how it affected her. He was checking whether the connection could resume without responsibility. Her old question would have been, what should I say to make him value me? Her new question was, what does this pattern require me to decide? That is the midpoint. The issue is no longer how to make him respond. It is whether his response is enough. This is where you truly remove the ego reward. You stop trying to win his attention and start deciding whether his behavior deserves continued access to yours. Your attention is not a prize you withhold to manipulate him. It is a resource you protect because your life has value. Your peace, focus, time, affection, and availability are not automatic benefits someone receives simply because you feel strongly about them. The sixth move is to reclaim your attention without performing indifference. Do not pretend you do not care. Do not force yourself to feel nothing. Real detachment is not emotional numbness. It is the ability to care without allowing care to control your decisions. Return to your routines. Sleep properly. Finish the work you have been neglecting. Speak to people who make you feel grounded. Exercise. Pray, reflect, journal, or sit quietly without checking whether he has appeared online. These actions are not distractions designed to make him miss you. They are how you remind your nervous system that your life still exists outside this uncertainty. The spotlight metaphor matters here. If every silent hour keeps the spotlight on him, your world becomes darker everywhere else. Move the light, not to punish him, but to see your own life again. A woman named Amara practiced this after Marcus disappeared whenever conversations became serious. The first few times, Amara tried to pull him back. Then she began using his silence differently. Instead of studying him, she studied the relationship. She wrote down what happened before each withdrawal. She noticed that Marcus became distant whenever she asked whether they were building toward commitment. He returned when the conversation faded and intimacy became available again. Amara did not diagnose him. She did not decide he was evil. She simply recognized that his behavior allowed closeness only when responsibility remained absent. When Marcus contacted her again, she said, "I enjoy being with you, but I'm looking for a relationship that can handle direct conversations. This pattern is not working for me." Marcus told her she was creating pressure. Amara did not argue. "I understand that this may feel like pressure to you. It is still what I need." Then she stepped away. He did not chase immediately. This is important because self-respect does not always produce the romantic ending you want. Sometimes acting correctly reveals incompatibility instead of creating commitment. That is not failure. Clarity is one of the most valuable outcomes a boundary can produce. The seventh move is knowing how to respond when he returns. Many men who ignore you eventually contact you again. But a return can mean many things. He may regret the silence. He may miss you sincerely. He may feel lonely. He may want reassurance that he still has access. He may be bored. He may have reflected and become ready to communicate differently. Do not decide which explanation is true based on the intensity of his return. Look for accountability. Does he acknowledge what happened? Can he hear how it affected you without becoming defensive? Does he explain without using his explanation as an excuse? Does he offer a different way of handling similar situations? Most importantly, does the pattern change? A message saying, "I miss you," expresses emotion. It does not automatically offer repair. You can respond calmly. "I'm open to hearing what you want, but I'm not interested in returning to the same pattern." If he says, "Why are you being difficult?" you have information. If he says, "I understand, I handled that badly, and here is what I want to do differently," you still do not need to trust immediately. Let consistency rebuild what silence damaged. Trust should not be restored by one emotional conversation. It should be rebuilt through repeated behavior. This is the third reversal. Forgiveness does not require restored access. You can release anger and still decide that the relationship is not safe, healthy, or compatible. You can understand his reasons and still refuse the pattern. There is one more reversal that matters. Silence can look powerful while still being fear in disguise. A woman may refuse to answer him because she wants to appear unaffected, yet spend the entire day rehearsing the reply she wishes she could send. She may tell her friends she is done while secretly hoping he becomes anxious enough to pursue her. That is not emotional control. It is delayed reaction. A genuinely calm response is chosen for clarity, not effect. Sometimes that means not replying because the message offers nothing meaningful. Sometimes it means answering directly. I'm not comfortable continuing as though nothing happened. If you want to reconnect, we need to address the silence. Sometimes it means ending the conversation completely. The goal is not to follow a universal no contact rule. The goal is to respond in a way that matches reality. If he ignored one ordinary message for several hours, a dramatic boundary would be disproportionate. If he repeatedly disappears for days whenever you express a need, treating the situation casually would ignore the pattern. Emotional intelligence is not reacting less in every situation. It is reacting accurately. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it protects me or because I hope it controls him? That question exposes the difference between a boundary and a tactic. A boundary remains meaningful even if he never reacts. A tactic only feels successful when it produces the response you wanted. If your silence depends on him chasing, it still belongs to him. If your decision protects your peace, even when he never returns, it finally belongs to you. And sometimes the strongest action is accepting that his silence was an answer, not necessarily an answer about your worth, an answer about his willingness to communicate, his level of interest, or his capacity to build with you. You do not need to force every ending into a conversation. You do not need him to explain perfectly before you are allowed to move on. Closure is not always something another person gives you. Sometimes it is the decision to stop waiting for behavior to become different from what it has repeatedly been. So if a man ignores you, do not chase him through messages, calls, apologies, indirect posts, or emotional performances. Pause. Send one clear communication if the situation deserves it. Then observe. Do not retaliate. Do not try to make him jealous. Do not humiliate him or attack his ego. Remove the reward of automatic access. Do not assume every silence is manipulation. Consider the context, but do not ignore a repeated pattern simply because his returns feel sincere. Do not turn his distance into a verdict on your beauty, femininity, or value. Do not perform indifference while secretly living for his response. Move your attention back to your work, health, friendships, faith, family, goals, and peace. If he returns, evaluate the quality of the return, not only the fact that he came back. Ask yourself three questions. What did he acknowledge? What has he changed? What will continuing this pattern cost me? These questions protect you from being hypnotized by temporary emotion. Maya eventually told Noah, I care about you, but disappearing and returning without explanation is not something I'm willing to continue. Noah said he was not good at relationships and needed things to remain casual. For the first time, Maya did not treat his honesty as a challenge to prove she could be patient enough to change him. She accepted it as information. She did not destroy his confidence. She destroyed the assumption that her feelings would keep her available regardless of what he offered. Lena stopped rewriting the same boundary for Ryan. She had already been clear. Sophia stopped using jealousy to make Adrian react. She wanted commitment, not competition. Amara accepted that Marcus experienced her need for clarity as pressure. She did not make his discomfort more important than her emotional safety. None of these women became cold, they became accurate. That is what acting correctly looks like when a man ignores you. You do not chase clarity from someone who repeatedly creates confusion. You communicate once, observe the pattern, and protect your access. You do not destroy his ego by wounding him. You destroy the ego reward by becoming unavailable to disrespect, inconsistency, and emotional control. If you want more honest guidance about male psychology, mixed signals, boundaries, and emotional self-mastery, subscribe to Dark Realism Psychology. The moment you stop begging his silence to explain your worth, it loses the power to define you.